I love you back. You folks are great. Thanks for sticking around. Let me be clear on one thing. Blue lives matter, police lives matter, cops' lives matter. And in saying that, a Phoenix police officer was killed in the line of duty. He died yesterday. He was responding to a burglary. He was shot by the perpetrator. So please keep him and the Phoenix Police Department in your prayers. Let me share something with you. I get asked often why I salute the audience whenever I speak before them. See, I'm old school. And in our representative democracy, elected officials are not sovereign. You, the people, are sovereign. And in keeping with military courtesy, it is incumbent on the subordinate officer to salute and render that salute first to the superior officer. So I see myself as an elected representative as a subordinate officer, and that's why when I come out to address a group, I salute you, because you are in charge, not the political class. As my good friend Sean Hannity is fond of saying, let not your hearts be troubled, for in 244 days and a little less than 10 hours, Barack Obama will exit the White House for the very last time. And finally, his reign of terror over your freedom, over your Constitution, and over your right to keep and bear arms, his reign of terror will be over. Very few topics in our human discourse spark as much emotion, passion, or vilification as the subject of guns in America. Now ask yourselves why. Why is the Second Amendment treated like the bastard child of the Bill of Rights by academia, the liberal mainstream media, and liberals in the political establishment? It's not about reducing mass murders, suicides, or street-level violence. Heck, it isn't really even about gun control, folks. It's about power, political power. It's all about government control over our lives. These anti-gun bigots on the left realize that in order to grow a more centralized government, they have to defeat several powerful citizen-based organizations. These anti-gun zealots realize that to win a political argument, you need two things. You need a common enemy and a common language. And to the anti-gun left, the common enemy is the National Rifle Association, and you, its freedom-loving members. While the common language of the AGI, you know who the AGI is, right? The anti-gun idiots. See, to the AGI, the common language is that guns should be outlawed and only the government should have them. Gun-supporting advocacies like the NRA are our lobby on Capitol Hill and in state legislatures guarding our Second Amendment right 24/7, 365. You see, in politics, if you're not part of a special interest group or if you don't have a powerful lobby, you can't get a seat at the table of power to participate in discussions. As sheriff, I took an oath to uphold and defend the United States Constitution, all of it. The Constitution does not come a la carte. It is all inclusive. When we start down that road of picking apart the Constitution to fit a certain leftist political agenda, we are headed toward a very dark place called government tyranny. While there are so many attacks on our Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms, what's interesting is that this is a recent phenomenon. For most of our nearly 240 years as a constitutional republic, the right to keep and bear arms was never seriously questioned. It has only been in about the last 30 or 40 years that this inalienable right has been challenged. We have been conditioned by freedom-loathing gun haters away from gun ownership and even gun possession. You can go all the way back to early man, where weapons were used against threats as a matter of survival and to provide sustenance for daily existence. Like everything else in life, technologies emerge, and thousands of years later, the weapon became a gun, a firearm, but the need to defend oneself against threats remained the same. In 1775, here in the New World, a group of renegades we call the Founding Fathers, the framers of the Constitution, understood the threat posed by a strong central government. So they created this idea of self-rule around a document that strictly limits the power of government and places the power with you, the people, the individual, and the states. You see, they understood that government tyranny was a natural result of government, so they included safeguards. They knew that only an armed citizenry could keep government in check. Patriot Thomas Paine said it best. He said that arms discourage and keep the invader and plunderer in awe. And they preserve order in this world as well as property. He went on to say that horrid mischief would ensue with the law-abiding deprived of the right to use them. Folks, it's a historical truism that in the 20th century, Nazi Germany's use of firearm registration laws to confiscate weapons from Jews rendered them defenseless from attacks. And Switzerland's tradition of ensuring that every man was armed with military weapons kept at home, ready to organize as a militia of total resistance, played a significant role in dissuading a Nazi invasion during World War II. And then there is the issue of the right of the people to keep and bear arms for self-defense. This, as you know, is a natural right. Survival is the first law of nature because man has an inherent desire to survive. Sometimes that means fighting off criminal predators. Don't be misled by phony sloganeering like common sense gun legislation or smart guns. There is nothing smart about what they are up to, as you and I both know, that none of this crap will reduce violence, suicides, or mass shootings. The people who believe this aren't working on anything smart. In fact, they are stuck on stupid about what causes gun violence, suicides, and mass shootings. Ben Franklin said, "We are all born ignorant, but one must work hard to remain stupid." When he said that, he had to have this gun-grabbing group in mind. Let's look at an instance of government tyranny that occurred not that long ago. Let's visit the issue of slavery that included my ancestors. Slavery is government tyranny. Government knows all too well that the first step to enslaving people is to disarm them. One of the hallmarks of slavery was that it was illegal to arm slaves or for slaves to possess weapons. Why? So that the slaves could not defend themselves during escape or against mob violence and lynchings. You see, the 13th Amendment only freed the slaves on paper. Only the ratification of the 14th Amendment, ordering that the Second Amendment applied to the states as well, allowed newly freed slaves to arm and thus defend themselves against ongoing mob violence, kidnappings, and lynchings. Folks, my ancestors fought hard and shed blood for the right to keep and bear arms for self-defense, and I am not going to cede that right back to the federal government or any level of government for that matter, and neither should you. In closing, let's talk about the National Rifle Association. Today's society confronts us with many threats from criminal behavior. In fact, our criminal-friendly president spends his final days releasing violent career criminals back onto the streets of already struggling communities. He is the only president in U.S. history to visit a prison and tell killers and rapists and drug dealers that they are the product of a racist criminal justice system. Has this guy lost his mind? As my public announcements say at the end, you are the first line in your personal defense, not law enforcement. You always have been. But for the last 30 or so years, you have been conditioned away from that duty by having people simply tell you to dial 911. That might not be your best option. You all know Kimberly Corbin, our courageous NRA colleague who was sexually assaulted on the Northern Colorado University campus. This brave woman voluntarily shares the story of her horrific event so that other women do not have to experience what she did. You talk about courage. She found out that when seconds mattered, the police were not a 911 call away. She also learned that the only person safe in a gun-free zone like a college campus is the criminal. She knows that law-abiding people have been disarmed in these gun-free zones by their government. Don't ever let anybody tell you to outsource your safety to the government. Defend yourselves in ways Folks, defend yourselves in ways more advantageous to you and then dial 911. Your life may depend on it. Handle that firearm, practice and become proficient with it. Know its capabilities and its limitations. Take time to learn the safe handling and storing of the weapon. A gun in the hands of law-abiding citizens is not a threat to society at large. It is a threat only to the criminal. It is also a threat to an ever-expanding federal government hell-bent on obliterating your right to keep and bear arms. So here's what we need to do. We need to band together with the NRA and every gun-supporting lobby in America and pressure this GOP-controlled Congress to make it priority legislation to pass federal concealed carry license reciprocity in the United States of America. That's House of Representatives Bill 923 and Senate Bill 498, the Constitutional Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act of 2015. We have 40 GOP senators who have co-sponsored the legislation, but it languishes in a black hole in Congress. while a few misguided senators instead have made a bill that gives criminals expanded rights under the so-called criminal justice and sentencing reform, a priority piece of legislation that is not what we, the people, sent them to Washington to do. Just like a driver's license from one state is valid in every state, and a marriage license is recognized in every state, so must your concealed carry license be valid across state lines. Think about this for a second. No other constitutional protection ends at the border of your state of residence. And think about this. Driving and marriage are not even constitutional rights. It is unconstitutional and unreasonable for someone to have to know the intricacies of concealed carry laws in differing states. In other words, you can be valid in one state, drive through another, and be in violation of the law. This is insane, and it has to be fixed now. Call or email your congressional members now and demand passage now so that your Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms through your concealed carry license is recognized in all 50 states, just as the 14th Amendment did for the newly freed slaves. I challenge people at the end of every public safety message I put out on Milwaukee radio. These ads end with a call to action. I ask, can I count on you? Thanks for being here in Louisville. Please renew or upgrade your NRA membership. I recently upgraded mine to patron level. Yeah, I put my money where my mouth is. Do it here. The lines may be long, but that's an encouraging thing, because human nature being what it is, we go back home, it starts to fall on the priority list. We cannot have that happen. Do it here and do it now. Keep fighting. God bless you, and may God continue to bless the United States of America.